America.
Welcome to the Costa Mesa Pettis Perspective. This is episode 23. Thanks for watching as usual. And do me a favor and subscribe to the YouTube link and like if you would, please. Again, it helps us track everything, and also go over to the Costa Mesa Pettis Perspective Instagram if you prefer watching there. So today we're going to talk about the council meeting that was yesterday evening that I attended, and it was really the main event it was public hearing number 2 on the redistricting process that's currently underway right now. And what I'm going to attempt to do in this video and do my best is I'm going to just do a quick, because I've had lots and lots of people ask me about redistricting. There's a lot of people that know a lot about it, and there's also a lot of regular people like myself before I started doing all this who didn't really understand what it's all about and what it means to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to briefly mention what it is, and then hopefully I'll be able to answer by the end of this video, and we'll keep it to under 10 minutes this time. I promised the IT director wife that we will keep it as short as we can. I'll try to attempt to answer the why does it matter to the individual person. So again, this is a second public hearing. When the meeting began, they immediately brought out the easels. The reason this is the second reading is because there have been 10 maps created so far from the community, from the demographers, and from a variety of sources. So when there's 10 maps up for examination so far, and this is just the beginning. So the reason redistricting is happening in Costa Mesa, it comes from the state. So every 10 years after the census is conducted in this country and in this state, we are required to adjust the lines in accordance with population shifts, meaning adjust the lines of each district, 1 through 6 in the case of Costa Mesa, every 10 years following the census. All district lines must be reviewed to meet strict requirements for population equality, voting rights, and what else? In accordance with the California Fair Maps Act. So there's these strict rules that need to be followed that begin. The number one is the California Fair Maps Act, and on down to the rules on down to the city level. So it starts. It's a very spelled out, arduous, tight process that takes place to create the redistricting of the districts. So the main point, that's why we're doing it right now. That's why this is underway. It's not anything other than it's a mandate from the state to do this. So the main thing that I want to drive home that actually came to light for me a lot in the council meeting yesterday was when the demographer was up there talking and explaining the mapping process. It's important to remember that he does not answer to the city council. He's a truly independent demographer for this process, and he had a lot of good insight that I was skeptical about before going into this meeting, and now I'm really excited because what it comes down to is that public input really does matter in this process. He said things like, this is just the beginning of the process. He kept reiterating it because there was each map was examined and each council person had a chance to speak to it, and he reiterated many times that he referenced the public input, and he referenced comments he got through the website and the community workshop. So it's important that I'm truly sold that it's the community inputs matters, and it actually can impact the process and the actual outcome of these districts. He made it a point to say the feedback doesn't need to necessarily be something like I love map 4, I hate map 6. It doesn't have to be I love or hate an entire map. It could be a piece of feedback from an individual citizen that didn't like a particular boundary line in a particular district or a certain part of a district. They really do listen to all that, and they make adjustments accordingly. So how do you have involvement as a citizen? Again, these maps that we saw at the council meeting were a product of the first public hearing, and thus the input and the workshop to produce these maps. The demographer actually creates the maps, and if it's a map submitted by somebody in the city or a citizen, he will do his best to keep the integrity of that map, and then adjust it so it falls into line with the Maps Act. It's I don't want to get too much into that because it's a little weedy. But how does the public impact? How do you get involved? Is a question I get a lot. So there's some dates that we need to remember coming up. December 1st and January 8th are the next community workshops that will take place at City Hall. I think they call it the conference room or the committee room. It's at City Hall. I forget the actual name of the room, but it's the 1st of December 21, and then January 8th, 2022. That is a workshop that will take place. And you can also find this if you just Google Costa Mesa redistricting. It'll kick you to this page. January 27th is the deadline for the map submissions before public hearing number 3. So that's important to remember, January 27th. So going to a workshop on the 1st or the 8th is important because you can have impact. And then that impact could be realized in the January 27th public hearing number 3. And then on February 15th, February 15th is public hearing number 3. Jan 27 will be a workshop that will apply for that February 15th outcome. So that will be where the preferred map is identified, meaning everything's happened, citizen input, council input, everybody input, and they'll all distill down to a decision on a map that will show districts 1 through 6 how they will lay to meet the March 22 is the deadline to adopt the actual new district map at a regular council meeting. So February 15th is public hearing 3, and then the following March in 2022 will be the council meeting will actually adopt the map. So that's the process and time and how you can become involved. You can do public comments through their website. You can submit a map through their website. I believe you can email them. It's important. It's important to know that individual citizen input can literally have an impact on the drawing of these maps. Now, why? Well, first I'll say something about council members. They each had a chance to talk, and I thought it was interesting that every one of the council members, with the exception of Chavez and Harlan, at some point in their talk expressed an interest in map number 108. So what I mean by interest, they all seem to agree. Stevens, Harper, Arliss Reynolds, Andrew Marr all said, look, 108 falls into what they think is an acceptable map, just to use that as a reference. Now, the reason is that map did the least, interestingly enough, that map did the least chopping of districts and moving things around. There were some tweaks that they had to do, but it wasn't like they took half a D6 and moved it over to D5. I thought that was interesting. There were other maps that were quite hinky, meaning it just didn't make sense. They might have made sense as far as the data outcome, but if you look at it, I mean, so there's a wide range of things that could happen. Doesn't mean they're going to adopt 108, but it's important to understand that they do have preference. So what does it mean to you as a citizen? Why do I care if I am in a district 1 versus a district another? Think about it this way. So you're in a district, right? And I'm going to list a bunch of different issues that your council member vote on. 1 Metro West. You might be in a district right now that you like 1 Metro West. You think it's great for affordable housing. It's great for arena numbers. And then it could be that you're redistricted out of that district into a district that's against 1 Metro West. That's a very real possibility. Triangle square signs. Do you love them? Do you hate them? If you hate them, you might be redistricted out of that district into a district that loves them. Neighborhood neighborhood permit parking that's recently been coming up. Are you for or against? These are things that your council person directly votes on and affects your life directly. Sober living homes. Do you like them? Do you hate them? You could be in a pro Gamaros could love sober living houses, and you get thrown over to Harper, and he's against sober living houses. Just using those as examples. So if they redraw lines, you could be on the border of one district, and before you know it, you're now represented by another council member in another district that all of a sudden doesn't show or doesn't share the interests you have about what's happening on the ground in your community. Parks. I can tell you right now, when I was looking at my own situation, at all 10 maps, I think 4 of the maps took me out of D6 and put me into D5, which meant not my goal up till now and going forward has been I'm going to run again in 2024 in D6, right? But if that of 4 of these, any one of these 4 maps were adopted, then I'm in all of a sudden District 5 running against Arliss Reynolds in 2022. That changes my life dramatically. I'm just using that as a real life example. So it's important to know what's happening, when it's happening with this redistricting, why it's happening, and how it can affect you directly. And it is very, very much on your front door, and I encourage all citizens to get involved. I will say there is one final solution that I do not have high hopes of happening. In fact, I would bet my next paycheck on it that if they had a district solution that was 5 districts and not 6. I know this was brought up in a previous council. I think it was even or a previous regime. I think it was even brought up and poo-pooed in this latest council. If you look at a district, or if you look at Costa Mesa broken up into 5 districts, you could do 5 blocks evenly distributed, easy peasy, nice and clean, meets all the California Fair Maps Act criteria. And there is no Arliss Reynolds U-shaped district with Chavez in the middle and D6 over here and Harper wrapping around the top. The reason that wasn't adopted, I'm not sure. I can speculate, but I can tell you that it's a simple council vote to get on the agenda, and the council could vote this solution in. My guess is that it was political reasons why, or power retaining reasons back when it was originally denied. And I would imagine that as we sit now, it would not be much political will for the current regime to do that, because why would you want to take away an extra district when you hold 5 of the 6 districts? I just wanted to throw it out there because it makes a lot of logical sense to me. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people yelling and screaming about that, but that's okay because we're going to be kind to ourselves, good to each other. Together we can get it done. Bye for now.